Welcome to the Suns Jam Session Podcast, the original post-game podcast of the Phoenix Suns. We are proud to be brought to you by the Basketball Podcast Network. That's something new, Matthew, that we have going on. We've joined the Basketball Podcast Network. We've partnered with DraftKings. We have some really fun and exciting things happening for the Suns Jam Session Podcast. So if this is your first time listening or watching us, we appreciate it. And God damn it, Matthew, I wish it was on better terms. Phoenix Suns lose to the Boston Celtics. They now have a record of 16-9. They're no longer the top seed in the Western Conference. And after the last two games, they don't even look like the 8th seed in the Western Conference.
No, they you know what? Even after last game, I was like, there's gonna be a good game tonight. There has to be some kind of bounce back. It might not be a win, it might be something of a close game and maybe a loss close at the end, and maybe Tatum hits a buzzer beater, something crazy like that. That's what I was envisioning.
Yes.
This is crazy. 3 out of the last 4 they've lost.
Mm-hmm.
We did join the new network. You would think we'd be a better team for that, but no, it doesn't affect them. It just affects us. It doesn't affect you listeners either. You get to listen to us after every game, but we're not going to have any fans left after games like these, right?
It's tough, man, because there's a lot of questions surrounding this team. There has been for quite some time. Cameron Johnson's injured. Does Monty Williams coach this team effectively enough at all times? Did James Jones provide the Phoenix Suns with enough assets to be successful? And when you take a look back, as you mentioned, Matthew, prior to losing 3 out of their last 4 games, this team's sitting in pretty good shape. Again, atop the Western Conference, they look to be playing as a cohesive unit despite some injuries. But there's been some question marks and some things that are starting to kind of arise and rise to the top, if you will, to all Suns' minds. All of the things that we've been thinking in the back of our minds, we're now seeing on the court. Lack of energy, lack of cohesion, lack of a true leader at times. Not to say Devin Booker isn't, but, Chris Paul comes back in this game. And to your point, Matthew, going into this, you think you're feeling good, right? You were feeling like this is going to be a good game. And my night kind of started off shitty because I finally broke down and I watched the first episode of the Hard Knocks, Arizona Cardinals. And I got like halfway through the episode and I just got mad because the reason I haven't watched Hard Knocks for the Arizona Cardinals is because it frustrates me. I care about that team so much and I know what the story is going to be. And that's the frustrating thing about the Suns right now is I kind of feel like I know how the story is going to go for about the next month because we have a really interesting schedule ahead of us. It started with Dallas on Monday. We got the Boston Celtics who crushed us on national television. And then we go into the New Orleans Pelicans games. And guess what? They're just the hottest team in the entire NBA. Cool. Fantastic.
Yeah. Championship contender after championship contender.
Championship contender.
Boston's a real team, man. They're strong. They're everything the Suns aren't right now. They were talking about Boston is basically what the Suns were last year. Yeah, but they got some players on there that are fuck you players, and they'll mess you up, man, big time, and they'll ruin you early in the night. And then when the Suns get down, they are down for good. As of this year and last year, that's when they get down, dude. They do not come out of it, and I don't know what that is.
That's a great observation. And again, I think that the challenge that we're going to have after playing championship contender after championship contender is we're going to start to look at organizationally what can be done. And I think that we're already there and it's only been 2 games into this. So at some point we have to, recognize long-term greed versus short-term greed. This is a 2-game stretch for the Phoenix Suns, but it's been a bad 2-game stretch. It's been a bad 4-game stretch. They have one game where they crushed the Spurs, but they're the Spurs. The Rockets beat them. Dallas beat them. Now Boston. They go out and beat them. So plenty to talk about on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. I'm going to do my best not to cuss in this one because I am full of rage right now, Matthew. I'm so pissed off. I'm going to do everything in my power not to drop F-bombs, not to really, say some of the things I was saying after that Mavericks game. I was just I was really, really frustrated.
Well, you've had some time. I mean, this game was over going into halftime.
Oh, yeah.
So you've had some time to chill.
To decompress.
If we would have had a halftime show, it would have been a different kind of thing, dude.
100%. So we'll talk about plenty on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're consuming this content. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Again, It's a joy to be part of the Basketball Podcast Network. Sorry we don't have a great one to start with, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pop open a beer, Matthew. I've got this 12-ounce. It's called Depression. I'm just going to drink Depression for an hour. I don't know if I think it's like a cider IPA. I don't know if that's real. So what are you drinking, Matthew?
It's water.
Okay. Well, pop them if you got them, Suns fans. And welcome to the Suns Jam Therapy Session. Cheers. Rough one in Phoenix tonight. A rough one in Phoenix indeed. The Phoenix Suns end up losing to the Boston Celtics by a final score of 125-98. And it wasn't even that close. It was a 29-point blowout at the hands of the Celtics. The Phoenix Suns were down at one point by 45 points in this one, which brings me to my first question, Matthew.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, have you ever seen a team pull its starters with 5 minutes left in this third quarter?
Ooh, no. No. I feel like I keep hearing, though, this is the worst Suns loss I've seen in a long time. I feel like we've heard that a few times, like recently, where it's kind of a thing. I know we were talking about Kobe and Shaq maybe a week ago playing for the Suns, but it just seems like every time the Suns do lose, and especially if it's against a good team, it's like, oh, this is the worst loss I've ever seen that the Suns have ever taken. And it could have been. It probably was. The reasoning for it, there's a lot of different reasons, but this was bad. It got to the point where you have your fans booing you going into halftime, and then the Celtics fans cheering, let's go Celtics. And yeah, fuck Boston, dude. Terrible place to live. Of course they're going to come here and live in Phoenix. So it's a compliment. We have all these people from everywhere else because this is a beautiful place to live. But it has to happen tonight where the Suns just get cruised by the Celtics, dude. That was awful. Just something I'd never want to see again, but it might happen a few more times.
Well, I'll preface everything with this, okay, Suns fans. For those of you who haven't watched much Boston Celtics basketball, and I'll admit I haven't, but I see highlights, and obviously I listen to the Bill Simmons podcast, which is kind of a national podcast for the Boston Celtics. This team's really, really good. We need to understand that. This is a team that leads the league in three-point shooting. They shoot 40% from beyond the arc as a team. What they say, they have 3 or 4 players, maybe 5, who shoot over 43% from beyond the arc. They're number 1 in the league in free throw shooting as well. I mean, it's a team that just shoots lights out. And we saw that tonight. It felt like, don't get me wrong, the Suns had their droughts, but the Boston Celtics shot 48.5% from the field, 35.6% from beyond the arc. The Suns shot 39.8% and 25% respectively in those two categories. So they were not doing a good job in any way, shape, or form shooting. You take a look at the offensive rebounds. They ended up going over offensive rebounds against the Celtics, but you really have to take a look essentially at like the first 3 quarters in this game, because the last quarter didn't mean anything. The first 3 quarters, the Phoenix Suns shot 16.7% from beyond the arc, 4 of 24. The Boston Celtics were 13 of 33. You look at those offensive rebounds, they had 9. The Suns had 9. So second chance points in this game overall, I'm going to pull up that stat real quick while I'm talking here, 21-16. But what the Suns, so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to give my flowers to Boston. Boston is a really, really good team. And you mentioned it. They're very much like the Phoenix Suns were last year. The Bally Sports team put that graphic up on the television set, and they even said that, you look at these two teams through 25 games last year, the Celtics were 20-5, the Suns were 21-4 last year. It's that shit. We just lost. There's my first cuss word. Put that in the jar. Fuck the jar. I'll say what I want. But the Suns last year and the Celtics this year were both teams that lost the NBA Finals and came out determined. Now, all of that being said, The Suns played like ass tonight in every way, shape, or form. There's two things you can control. Two things you can control. You can't control the opposition. You can't control the weather. You can't control the traffic on the way to the arena. I tell this to my team all the time at work. There's only two things you can control: your attitude and your effort. And both of those were dog shit tonight from the Phoenix Suns. Absolute and utter dog shit. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did against the Mavericks. I'm going to start with the same observation and the same drop, if you will, because it all starts right here.
Ever since I've been here, we talked about everything you want is on the other side of hard. This is hard.
Monty Williams, coach of the Phoenix Suns.
Starts with Mont, man. Mont's the one who's got to get this team up. Mont's the one who's got to get this team ready. And I get it that Monty Williams isn't out there missing every shot, but at the same time, he's not doing anything. I haven't seen anything over the past 2 days to give me faith in his ability to get this team ready for these big games. I don't know what he's got to do, but he's got to do something, bro.
Yeah, but what does he do? I mean, look at Hey.0 says soft ass coach. Yeah, I guess, but I don't know what he does. Who we have out on the court tonight is who we have. It's up to Chris Paul and Devin Booker to lead that team. Of course, there's plays run and all that bullshit, and like players have to follow through with that. Other than that, players need to be held accountable by themselves, by the players out there like Devin Booker and Chris Paul that can lead them. I don't know what he could do with adjustments and stuff like that to teams like this. I really don't, because I don't have any idea. Anytime you hear a little snip of like any kind of talk out of the huddle from like TNT or something, it's like, whoa, I didn't know that. You know, like the tiniest little fraction of what these guys actually talk about in the locker room or on the court. It's like, dude, I had no idea you were trying to do that. I didn't even realize that's even part of the game, because we just don't know as fans. We really don't. So I guess we can go out at Monty a little bit. I don't know what kind of adjustments you want to make. I just think it's a team that's played the same. And when it comes down to the last 3 seasons or so, or last 2 seasons, to where you play soft against teams like this, it goes to the coach because that's the first one to go, right? The coach is usually the first one to get screwed, to get canned. So I'm not saying that Monty's going to get fired, but he's the first one up. If things don't work out and somehow in the playoffs we end up losing the first round, or we just go through a skid and we can't get who we want in the trade deadline, Monty's going to be the first one that's going to be off this team for sure.
And I think if you go up and down the lineup tonight, I mean, we can question the attitude and effort of everybody but Josh Okogie tonight. I mean, you honestly can, because you're seeing it on Twitter, and Twitter was a dumpster fire tonight. And, you know, I was there for it. I was contributing to it myself because I was pissed off, especially in that first half. I thought DA, who had a great opportunity to play against Blake Griffin, wasn't playing aggressive, and he was bringing the ball down every time. I think Devin Booker, this has happened for like 3 straight games where everything is short.
Yeah.
Devin Booker in the last 2 first quarters is 2 of 15 from the field. He's shooting 13% from the field. Everything he's shooting is short. I think that Chris Paul's, poor Chris Paul, this is his first game back, and he came out and the offense was kind of humming a little bit when he was out there. In that first quarter, he had 2 points, he had 3 assists. He played 7 minutes, but the moment that they took him out of the game, that team forgot how to play. I mean, it was what, like 13-13. Chris Paul comes out the game, and the final however many minutes, the final score in the first quarter is 31-21 Boston. And here we go again, another game where we have to dig ourselves out of a big deficit early. And to your point, Matthew, this team, and part of this is the fact that Chris Paul hasn't been there, but this team doesn't know how to get itself back in those games. They don't know how to truly dig themselves out of those deep deficits like they did last year, right? Last year's team would just methodically just keep coming at you. Boston was a team that kept coming at you tonight.
Yeah, well, Boston's a team that they have all the right weapons to really carry that lead and make it go to 30 points, 40 points in this game, because they have guys like Tatum and Brown where you can't really cover them. They're long. I mean, Tatum, he's like a Booker, but long, like super long, obviously taller. So his shot, everything is a lot easier for him. You can switch Lee, you can switch Mikal, Okogie on him. It doesn't matter. He shoots over them. So you can't stop that. So when you're going up against a team like Boston, it's like, how do you get back into it? great defense, but you can't stop those two. You just can't. They're unstoppable. That's why they are the way they are.
They couldn't stop Brogdon. They couldn't
No
stop
one.
fucking Blake Griffin from beyond the arc.
Yeah, even guys coming off the bench, they couldn't stop them under the rim. Any kind of putback, rebounds. I mean, shooting 8% because Okogie gets the first 3 in the first half, 8%. So I think what the Boston Celtics are, they're obviously the kryptonite to the Suns, like the Mavericks were in a way, but the Mavericks, they get hot and you can't stop them. But the Celtics themselves, I feel like they get in the Suns' head. They have players like Williams down there who is just bodying Ayton sometimes, and he pulls out like the "you're too small" thing, and it's just, I feel like every time Ayton or anybody would get the ball against like a Blake Griffin or Williams or anybody in the post, it would be mentally hard for them to get past that obstacle to where they're just like, I don't think I can finish against this guy. I don't think I can get a good shot. And a lot of them were clanking off the back of the rim. A lot of them were just chucked at the rim. So it was
the same thing as the Mavericks game, dude. It's like I was literally watching the same damn thing. The only difference is as you watch the Boston Celtics play, you're like, damn, that's an efficient, good, high quality scoring team. When you're watching the Mavericks, you're just watching Luka just frustrate the shit out of you, and then his guys, like you said, all get hot all around him. But you take a look kind of up and down the lineup, it's got to start with Book.
Big Dick Booker.
I mean, this felt like a game where Booker didn't even want to play because he was just getting pwned, if you will. He ends with 17 points on 6 of 17 shooting, so not efficient in any way, shape, or form. 3 assists, 5 rebounds, has the 5 personal fouls. And, you know, this is the challenge that I think the Suns have right now. Is for a week there, he found his Robin, and the Suns were playing great. And Devin Booker, well, I guess it should be more Ayton watch stuff, but I'll start with Devin Booker. He's got to find a way to be a little bit more efficient. And I get it. He's had a couple off nights, and it's part of the regular season. There's 82 games, and you can't sit there and go, you know what? This is what predicates the remainder of the season. But he's just having an off stretch right now, man. You just got to call it what it is. And that's where cerebrally he needs to understand, stop fouling people, start to get DA involved a little bit more if you can. Start relying on his fellow teammates, and he did to a certain extent. I'll credit him for that. He was making the right plays. He was making the right passes, but they weren't hitting anything either. I mean, Mikal Bridges, for example, in the first half or in the entire game was 2 of 12 from the field. 2 of 12 from the field. 0 of 5 for Mikal Bridges. And a lot of those came off of those Devin Booker passes. So at some point, Devin Booker's like, I'm going to keep dishing you the rock, boy. Keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. Brick, 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 brick. And then finally he's like, okay, now I got to go and try to carry this team. And he's been carrying it for a couple weeks, and you're starting to see a little bit of that fatigue, don't you?
Yeah, and also he turned his ankle pretty bad last game, so I don't know if that has to play into it at all. It might be something that might aggravate him on his jump shot because everything is super, super short. So going 0 for 2 to start the game on very awful looking shots. Defense was good, but Book, I feel like his shots are always very difficult. He gets to his spots, but they look difficult. Unlike Tatum, where it's just ease and over the dudes. Booker always has to really try.
Tatum's like 2 or 3 inches taller than him too, so it's like he's got that advantage.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that Booker having to stress his ankle a little bit more to get those shots off, it might have something to do with that. And there was short on the first 2, and then the foul trouble started. Then it's like, are those fouls? Like those weren't fouls, but it doesn't matter. Dude, he had 4 fouls in the first half, which was insane. You just can't have that. I don't care what you're doing. You come back in the second half, then you have like an aggravation foul that was almost called with Williams down there, where they were just pushing, and then Williams like picks him up and carries him a little bit. So you almost had the 5th foul right there, and then Booker does get his 5th foul on just some shitty foul where he tried to stop somebody from going to the lane. So it wasn't any adjustments made on his end. He was in the huddle trying to get his team trying to get them going. But it's just like, yeah, you can do that, but out on the court, man, you're making bad passes too. A lot of those fast breaks, a lot of the times the Suns would go through these spurts where it's like pass after pass was just thrown right to the Celtics defender. It wasn't just Book, it was everybody, but Book would do it too. So it wasn't like he can lead the team, be like lead by example, because his game was garbage too. So I don't know what you do in that situation, but sit there on the bench, end the game, and just tell DA to shut the fuck up, stop talking. And he's also sitting there, he's like, oh, like, is this why LeBron leaves every game early and heads to the tunnel when we play?
He doesn't want to hear his teammates.
I couldn't stand that, dude. I kind of wish Book would be able to go into back, dude, and just sit there.
He's like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
Watch.
Well, we'll talk a little DeAndre Ayton here. You take a look at his final box score. You ready for this, Matthew? Don't look at the box score. Don't look. Look at me over here. How many shot attempts did he have this game?
He had, let's say, 9.
Okay. He played 24 minutes, so you're going to go with 9.
Okay. Going to go 9.
Okay. He had 8 points, 7 rebounds, 7 shot attempts, 4 of 7.
Okay.
Again, I'm frustrated because I don't think they get him the ball enough. But here's the other side of that, right? You know, you take a look. He had 4 turnovers. And some of the Jamsters are hitting in the chat. Mario Lopez, DA was getting swarmed in the paint, and if he tries to dribble, the ball is over. Facts. That's what teams are doing. Houston was doing that, remember? Every time he'd bring the ball down, they were just swatting at it, right? Brutus 92. He's like, DA got passes below his knee, and he's got to throw that shit up to his head. And some of the times they were throwing it up to his head, then he'd bring it down and dribble, and then it was done.
Yeah.
He's trying to get into that spin move. He's trying to try these moves out, but the challenge that DA's always had is he always carries so much gravity with him that there's always a second defender within a swatting length that he never gets a chance to really put the ball down and do a fancy move. He did for like a week, and then people are like, okay, I guess we just got to double him every time. But again, like so if you go, okay, he's got 7 shot attempts, he's got 4 turnovers. That means there's at least 11 entry passes that have occurred to him in a 24-minute period. That's right around where it should be, I guess, considering the just take some of those touches away, I guess, away from Mikal Bridges. But I will say this: DA looked pretty lost in that first quarter.
Whew.
I mean, he looked lost, bro.
Yeah, he did. And speaking of LeBron, man, he didn't hustle back for one play on defense, and there was a straight-up layup to end the second quarter going into halftime. Like, that must have like, Monty, soft or not, I don't know, he must have had his ass ripped or chewed apart, dude, going into the locker room. Because I don't know if it was him.
Ouch.
Ripped, where you rip it apart, you chew it, you might have to cook it. You might have to cook it.
And then you put it
it's
back.
not too tender. Yeah. And then you give it to him back.
Give it back.
Yeah, spit it back up to a baby bird. That's what it had to happen that way, right?
It must have, clearly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the hustle wasn't, and again, that's the challenge that we're having over these last couple games. One, he's not getting engaged, and I blame the Suns for not doing that. But we're starting to see a little bit of that regression. And don't get me wrong, like he's not the only one. He's not the only one who was out there half-assing it on both ends. Because when you look up and it's the second quarter, and you're going into halftime, and the score on the scoreboard as you're walking towards that tunnel, 69-42. Like, guess what? Everyone played a part in that, and everybody, the opposite side of that argument that everyone's going to make every time this happens, it's like, yeah, I get that, but he's the one who's getting paid $30 million. But again, he couldn't pass. He couldn't pass himself the ball. Did you see that one pass that Jason Tatum had to Jaylen Brown, like in the paint in like the third? It's like this wraparound pass hit him perfectly right in the hands. He's just like a layup. I'm like, why can't we ever get DA one of those passes?
No, you know what? I did see a few passes tonight where I'm like, how does that happen with DA? I mean, these guys come in and they play the pick and roll perfectly. And some nights, and most nights, DA can't get that going with anybody, whether it's Cameron Payne or Chris Paul. But also, like, what DA did tonight, there was a lot of regression. It looked like the old DA before we were calling him Shaq, and now anointing him the new Shaqtus. Yeah. Like, I feel like he was doing a lot of stuff. A lot of easy shots were going in and out too for him. So he was having a hard time there, but he did start off the game 2 for 3. He did turn the ball over early, just bringing the ball down. Some of the passes were low, but what you do is you grab them and you bring them up. Anytime you go against Blake Griffin, man, I was like, all right, here we go. Here's a mismatch. Yes. But then it wouldn't happen. It would not happen. And I think maybe it gets in his head. He's like, it should be an easy shot, but it's Blake Griffin. I'm scared. Is he nervous? It's Blake Griffin. That's what it seemed like. I'm like, how are you not getting a better shot than this? And then he would turn the ball over. There was one time where he had the right side, and he does this all the time, man. Yep. The right side to spin, and he would have had a dunk, but he turns left, and everyone's there.
And everyone's there. I know exactly which play you're talking about.
Yeah. And everyone's talking about it's crowded down there. Yeah, but DA's the biggest guy down there. He has to keep the ball above his head and just put it back up. You miss it, you miss it. At least you have the ball up above your head, and you just put it back in. Try to, at least, instead of bringing the ball down, man.
Yeah, I don't know why he was bringing the
Frustrates
ball
me.
down so much in the past 3 games. He's there 4 games now. He's done it a bunch where he's bringing it down, and guess what? You're starting to lose some of that efficiency. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things that, again, Coach Monty Williams and his staff need to identify and talk to the guy about. Be like, hey man, if you want to be successful, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to not bring that ball down, or if you do, it's okay to put your arm out and dribble, to kind of block the opposition from coming there and just swatting at you left and right. So a couple of things observationally that I had in this game. Rebounds, we did okay, 53-49, but I really feel like it was the points in the paint that were killing us. We started off, that's how we scored the majority of our points right off the bat. Our first 12 points, I think of our first 14 points, 12 were in the paint. The other 2 were 2 from the free throw line from Devin Booker. But outside of that, we had 30 the rest of the game, and they had 54. So they were just kind of doing whatever, whenever they wanted.
Dude, it's because Suns would give up. Suns would give up any kind of defense. You can see it on their face.
The effort,
they were down by like 24 or something. It's like, that's not even that bad. And you're fucking giving up going into halftime and throwing the ball to the Celtics players, like on the offense. Why are you doing this? Like, you act like the game's over. Like, it's just like game 7.
Yes.
It's like, is there something we don't know that's going on?
They got punched in the mouth. And instead of, kind of doing one of those like, oh shit, you wipe your lip and you look down, you see blood and you get pissed off and rage. They go, oh, stop hitting me. Stop hitting me.
Yeah.
Stop hitting me. And that's a couple nights in a row we've seen this. It's that game 7 mentality that this team had. They had no fight. They had zero fight in this game. They came out, they looked okay. It's tied 13 a pop. And then they got punched in the face by the best team in the NBA, and they fell down to the ground, and they're just like, stop. And they're like calling to the teacher during recess. They're like, everybody's picking on me. And the teacher's like, sack up, you pussy. And that's exactly what it was all night. We couldn't get back. And now, granted, we had the return of the point guard in this game.
The point guard.
Maybe it's a good thing that this game was so out of hand, so Monty didn't play him 36 fucking minutes in his return. But 24 minutes, 2 of 6 from the field, 0 of 2 from beyond the arc, because everybody was 0 of 2 from beyond the arc except for Josh Okogie. He had 4 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds in this game, 4 turnovers. So quad for Chris Paul on his return.
Yeah, welcome back, big man. It's good to see you out there. He started the game off nice with a nice assist to Bridges there was that attitude. Dude, there was that attitude that was there in the first quarter for maybe the first 4 minutes. The Suns had this. Craig was back. He was blocking shots. Paul was back running the offense. It looked good. There wasn't anything that I was seeing where I'm like, oh, he's done. CP3's washed. I still don't see that yet, but I don't know what you do with the situation because I don't know how much it is Chris Paul, the other players. Like, do you include Chris Paul in a trade or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just thinking about how this team gets better because going forward,
it needs to get better.
Yeah, it has to get a lot better. And what do you do with Chris Paul though? Because I think, can he run this offense? Can he actually help this team win games that actually matter? Do you actually see that happening? Is this something that makes sense to you when you think of it? Like, yeah, I can see Chris Paul hoisting that trophy up. Is that something you actually see? I don't see it.
What would be great is if in some way, shape, or form, the Suns could pull some deal out, get a quality point guard out of the deal, and have Chris Paul become the sixth man, have him become the Malcolm Brogdon.
So no more Cameron Payne? Or
nah, Cameron Payne's okay, but he's not. Again, like I really am going to delve into the stats tomorrow and look at the first, was it 21 games for the Phoenix Suns or 20 games of the Phoenix Suns? I want to take a look at really who the opponents were and their injuries and things like that. Like I want to look because how much of this was fool's gold? Were we knocking off top tier teams in the Western Conference? I don't think so. So I want to see what that looks like. Ooh, yeah, we beat Detroit. Like, you're supposed to beat Detroit. But now we have a slate ahead of us that has a lot of these top-tier games. And we're really going to know what we have. And if tonight is any barometer of what we have, then we are screwed. And again, there's 2 things you got to understand. One, it's a post-game pod after the Suns were down by 45 points. So we're not going to react. We're going to overreact. But the Suns, after these last 2 showings, as an organization, James Jones, he doesn't need to overreact because that's when dangerous things happen. That's when bad trades happen. But you know what he does need to do? He does need to react. And Chris Paul, is an asset. Good, bad, or indifferent. What he's done for this franchise got us to a finals. Thank you. It's something you have to think about. Now, granted, his contract gets very friendly over the next couple of years, and you don't want to become that organization that gets known for just dishing players to the side like a Chris Paul. But at the same time, like, I'm interested to see how he plays in these upcoming games. It's his first game back, so you can't get overly frustrated. But I will tell you this, Matthew, and tell me if you didn't notice this. The pace of play drastically, and we know it, but after watching campaign for 10 games plus, run it and at least get the ball up court as quick. We don't get into our offensive sets, with 20 seconds left. This isn't the 7 seconds or less era. But just the slow, methodical thing, it just wasn't working tonight, and it could work moving forward. Again, first game back. But even as fans, we need to adjust to the fact that Chris Paul's back, and it's going to be a slower, more paced out game for the Phoenix Suns. Just get used to it.
Yeah, but I feel like a few times he would get the ball up quickly and out of his hands. I really didn't think it was too much slower. I mean, campaign, of course, is a lot quicker than Chris Paul. Just, if you're going to ask them to race each other, yeah, he's faster. But the offense itself, it seemed fine. It seemed like it was moving okay. It seemed like the threes were there early. Nothing was falling, really.
Yeah, that's
why I didn't want to bring up pace, because I feel like I didn't see it that big of a difference. But also, Chris Paul, if we do trade him, I know you're talking about you don't just dish players aside, and I'm not saying I want to trade Chris Paul, but I just want a championship. And if that means you trade Chris Paul to get SGA or you get KD or something like that, and you have to involve Chris Paul, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't look bad on the Suns' part. Chris Paul was here longer than he was when OKC, and that he was here just as long as he was with the Rockets. You know what I mean? Like, he's towards the end of his career. He's not who he used to be. He knows that. This season, he realizes that. So I don't think it's a big deal to kind of see what is out there, what we can get for Chris Paul. It would have to be an SGA or KD. Like, you can't get rid of him for anything less than that, because it would have to be someone that can replace him ball handling and scoring wise.
But I don't know what you can do to make either one of those players happen, because how does it benefit OKC? OKC is a team that's in the process of rebuilding, and they have a superstar in their hands. That's the one guy they won't get rid of. They might get rid of.
I know, but they're crazy franchise, man.
They are, but I don't see any way, shape, or form where they do a deal to get Chris Paul, $1 million assets, draft picks, because the Suns have all their own draft picks. But even the fact that they have their own draft picks is somewhat devalued, considering the fact that this is a team that's trying to compete for a championship. So it's not like you have a Lakers asset where it's like, oh shit, that could be potentially a lottery pick, or you have somebody like Utah or something. I mean, it's interesting because we have a bunch of assets, but are they truly valuable? On paper, yes, but true NBA value, probably not. So something to keep an eye on. I'm really interested to see, because then there's the whole, we're easing Chris Paul into the rotation. Yeah. And there's going to be some growing pains with that for this team. And Suns fans, just buckle up. Like, we have a tough schedule ahead of us. Games like tonight are going to happen. There's the reason why I said this team's going to win 49 games at the beginning of the season. So real quick, we do have a new sponsor. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're called DraftKings. So we always have to do a little audio read on that. You know what? I just thought I'd make a fun little commercial instead.
You looking to make some cold, hard cash? Visit the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet just $5 pregame moneyline on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Who doesn't love a good same-game parlay? Download the app now, sign up with code TBPN, place a $5 pregame moneyline bet on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's code TBPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Win enough money, and who knows, Jamsters, maybe we can buy the franchise from Robert Sarver.
There you go.
Well, that didn't cheer everybody up. I hope that cheered everybody. That was funny. That was awesome, dude.
You enjoy that?
Yeah, it's looking great, dude.
If you're listening to the pod, head over to the YouTube feed.
Yeah, come watch it.
Check it out. It'll make you laugh. See, Luke Carter gets it. He's like, ha 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 ha. And Alex says it's a nice commercial. So yeah, go to DraftKings, use the promo code, all that fun stuff.
The Ward
The Warden. Again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, his final stat line tonight, 2 of 12 from the field for 4 points. He had 3 total rebounds. He had 0 assists, 1 steal. And in a game like this where you're going against everything went wrong. We know that right off the bat. You're going against Jason Tatum, who he's going to primarily guard. He's going to get switched onto Jaylen Brown. And even in that scenario, didn't necessarily have a strong performance either on either one of them. Offensively, he was a 0. Defensively, he was a 0. Is there any room for concern with Mikal Bridges over these last 2 games?
Yeah, I think just this season, there's a lot of games where I watch him and I don't want to trade anybody at all, but I'm always just thinking, I'm like, well, if we include him in a trade, I'll be fine, because he just disappears a lot. He does in these games, and he's the first player in these games where he just can't really make a difference. It's like he can hit the corner 3. Okay, the one thing he does is when he's hot, he can hit the corner 3. But if that's not falling, he doesn't do much else. Tonight, he's trying to get to the rim, and a lot of those were just coming in and out, like a lot of the players out there clinking off the back of the rim. You can't ask him to do too much. It just sucks to watch a team like the Celtics where they have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, that are just all-stars, superstars. Jason Tatum's a superstar, and they just can get whatever they want offensively, and you're looking for that other score. So, of course, we know that's not Mikal, but it's like I always think, I'm like, who is that player I would be okay giving up to get that score that we need? I'm not saying for a Kuzma, but for a higher just echelon kind of player, it would be maybe Mikal, because I just think in these games where they're tough and the Celtics are not tall. A lot of them aren't tall. They're not 7 feet, but they're big.
But they're
they
thick.
Can fuck you up. They're thick, and you can't move them. You can't do anything with them. Mikal has no chance in these games.
That was my observation over the last 2 games. Is physicality obviously is not going to benefit Mikal. And when you go against the Luka Doncic's, when you have to go against Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, and granted, like the only scenario we would go against those guys is in the NBA Finals, but he would be toast. He would be cooked. He doesn't have the physicality to play with those guys. And that's okay, but you have to call it what it is, and that's exactly what it is. Is while he's a great defender and has the ability and has shown us recently that he can put points on the board. I mean, don't let it be lost on you that he scored 22 points against the Houston Rockets. He had 20 points against the San Antonio Spurs. Earlier in the season, he had 25 against the Lakers. So he had 31 against Minnesota. So, I mean, he can put points on the board. Like you said, though, Matthew, when he can get hot. Tonight, much akin to the entire Phoenix Suns, he wasn't hot offensively. So I would say the thing that I've noticed over these past few games is if we're going against a team that is big, from a physicality standpoint, he can't be the effective Mikal defensively. We need him to be effective offensively. Had he been effective offensively in this game, I feel they would have fared a lot better. Because again, first quarter, he was 1 of 5. Second quarter, he was 1 of 6. So if you want to talk about where the offensive weak spot was in this game, everybody stop, look to the left, look to the right, and understand it was Mikal Bridges. He's the one who just buried us offensively. Now, don't get me wrong. The rest of the team Booker had a tough time shooting. They weren't getting the ball to DA. But your tertiary score was 2 of 11 in the first half. That's huge. It's a huge reason why you're in that offensive hole.
This is crazy, man. I mean, I know Chris Paul's back. Maybe this is what it all is. Just that Chris Paul's back. We just need to wait a little bit. Maybe that's it. But it's just crazy that this was the finals team 2 years ago, and we have losses like this back to back, and it just looks like a team that's so lost still. It's like, what are you lost of? You're playing a Celtics team that was in the finals last year. Of course, they're going to be tough, but it is crazy that you look like the Houston Rockets or these San Antonio Spurs out there that doesn't have a fighting chance against the Celtics team. Who, just really quick, do you hate any of these Celtics players? I can't hate any of
Grant
them.
Williams. I don't like Grant Williams. I don't hate him.
Grant, he's an asshole.
Yeah, I don't like Grant Williams, but you're right. Grant Williams is an asshole.
Jason Tatum stays quiet, doesn't do shit, just plays his game.
I have been very vocal in the past on my frustrations with Jason Tatum, not necessarily due to his talent, but due to the fact that I felt like the NBA shoving him down our throat, saying this is the next guy. I have nothing to say this year, man. The guy's a fucking amazing. I saw it last year in the playoffs too. Like, respect to him in the playoffs. When I watched the Celtics in the playoffs last year, Grant Williams went to Duke. Both of those guys went to Duke. And Duke guys just annoy me naturally. It's like a DNA disposition that I have. But I can't stand Grant Williams. But everybody else, like Jaylen Brown, I love Jaylen Brown. Always have. I always felt he was very underrated. I like Al Horford, who we didn't see play. I like Robert Williams, who we didn't see play tonight. I hate Blake Griffin. That's one guy I can't stand. The punchable face of Blake. But then
he doesn't do anything now. He just
funny.
He doesn't even try it. Like he's not even a flopper really anymore. He just tries to stay in the game.
He flopped early in the game.
He flopped actually on the tip off. On the tip ball, he flopped. So what am I talking about?
Yeah. So I mean, he's
still
still
trying to defend this guy.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't even try to do that. One guy who did play good today had a career high 28 points, highest score for the Phoenix Suns.
Josh.
What I say, 28 points for Josh Okogie, 8 of 14 from the field. And this is how you know you're in the twilight zone, Matthew. He was 4 of 6 from beyond the arc. The Phoenix Suns were 8 of 32. Josh Okogie was 4 of 6. So that's right there. He was 8 of 10 from the free throw line. He put up a 28 and 7 tonight. You're going to look at his statistics all year long, and something's going to be skewed. And he had that game against Boston where like he got all the shots and he was on them. So good for him.
Yeah, good game. It does suck though. He's like the only player that you can look forward to offensively, defensively, hitting the first 3 of the game. It's insane. He went hot.
Only one of the first half.
Yeah, the bench was actually rooting him on, which was pretty cool. They were rooting him on. It's nice to see that kind of a little bit. You don't want to be in that situation, but Okogie's impressive right now, man. He's doing a lot of things where when he's out there, I'm like, wait, is that Torrey Craig? That's Torrey Craig stuff he's doing out there.
Yeah, it is.
He's getting those offensive rebounds sometimes. He's finding his way into the lane just to try to get not a box out, but just try to steal a rebound. He's doing stuff like that still. So he's gonna get a lot of minutes. I knew in this game the way he came out in the second quarter, I'm like, he's gonna get a lot of minutes this game. I didn't realize it'd be over 2 minutes later, but I was like, he's gonna get a lot of minutes tonight because he's looking good, man. He's the only guy I can look forward to watching on this team. It's crazy. Games like this, it's the weirdest thing to see one player that's always just hustling the whole time. What is that?
That's him all the time, though. If you could bottle up the energy that he's had over this latest stretch and inject it into the veins of his fellow teammates, this team would be competitive. He's the only one. I mean, he's out there blocking shots and hitting threes and just looking fantastic. And the rest of the team is just like, oh, yeah, let's cheer for Josh because he's the only one who's fucking trying. It's just like, it's great to see.
Over there biting his fingernails.
It's great. It's great to see, though. One thing that I found was interesting in this game, and he only played in 13 minutes, was Damian Lee didn't even shoot a 3. I feel like Damian Lee's like, I'm shooting like 48% from beyond the arc. I'm not going to waste any threes in this game because something's fucked up here. There's some bad juju in here tonight. I'm not even going to try to contribute offensively. We're down 45 as it is, so what's the point?
Yeah, I didn't even notice him tonight. I noticed that he was trying to play defense, like switching around with Mikal and Okogie at the same time on Jason Tatum. Like it didn't matter. But we talked about last pod how Lee is a good defender where he can wrap himself around these guys without getting the foul, which was nice. But I didn't even notice him offensively, obviously.
It wasn't anything. One shot.
I feel like I just got such a deep, dark hole this game where I didn't matter who was out there, or I didn't have anything to look forward to tonight other than being here with the Jamsters and hanging out.
Yeah, hanging out after a 29-point loss. I'll tell you who was having a good time. That Boston Celtics subreddit.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
So for those of you who don't know, we like to hang out on the subreddit of the opposition to hear what their team and their fans are thinking of the game. Clearly, I just have a beanie next to my computer, and it's what I put on every time. I was going to bring out the wig, but then I forgot because I was just so mad. So here's what was being said. The first one, we look pretty good considering we're missing both our bigs. Ayton, too soft to take advantage of his massive mismatch. Next comment.
Yep.
Ayton is soft. Booker's overgroomed face is very punchable.
Yep.
What does that mean, overgroomed?
It's just the hairs, they're just perfectly all the way down. I mean, he can't grow a beard. You know what I mean? So he has to make sure it's just all the way down, looking nice.
Gotcha. Chris Paul went to the bench and the Suns stopped scoring immediately. Suns just got absolutely brog-dogged That was pretty funny.
Brogdon.
We did get Brogdon in this game, dude. Malcolm Brogdon, 19 minutes, had 16 points on 7 of 9 shooting, 2 of 4 from beyond the arc. He had 5 assists, 3 rebounds. What makes this team so scary is the fact that Malcolm Brogdon is their 6th man. They have the ability to bring Malcolm Brogdon, a guy who we wanted in Phoenix, since like 2017. We wanted him on here, or we wanted him on this team. And he's out there playing 6th man for them, and they're loving it. They're loving it.
Yeah, he overshadows Payne by a lot. Not like they were head-to-head all night, but he got the 8 straight points. You couldn't stop him. He was getting to the rim at will, man. He's a big dude. He's a big little guy that can get to where he wants, and he can move that ball. He's a great backup. Should be a starting point guard in the league, but he has injury issues.
He does, but I mean, again, you limit his minutes by having him come off the bench. It's just, it's very true. Malcolm Brogdon is going to be very, very big for this team. Very big for this team. Booker can't beat Brown on offense and can't stop Brown on defense. LOL. That was a fact tonight. He got owned.
Brown played him out of the game, man. He was drawing fouls,
and
Booker had no chance against them. That sucks because that's their 2nd best player.
And I know. And you think about it. Think about Jaylen Brown. You see all that shit he was talking? Nope.
Not that type of player. Not at all.
Him and Jason Tatum. That's the thing about this team. I respect teams that aren't out there just, that's why Grant Williams drives me crazy. He's their little shit talker. Marcus Smart's a little shit talker.
Need that. You still need the Draymond because you know what I mean?
Oh, you always do. Yep. Every team does. The Suns are without one right now. That was Jay Crowder. DeAndre Ayton ain't doing that. The one time he did, he stood over a player. He got pushed by Pat Bev into like the first row. Devin Booker can be that player. We don't want him to be because he gets thrown out of games. You don't need the best player to be it.
He's out of the game.
Does
anything. Yep.
So you need to your stars should be calm and quiet because those are the scary ones, and that's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for sure. Somebody said, does the NBA have a mercy rule? And somebody responded, this game is a testament to just how awful the Western Conference is now. This is the top team. No longer. The Suns play the top. The Suns play the top team on Friday, the Pelicans. And the last thing that I noticed in the Celtics subreddit, Suns team practice going to be ugly tomorrow. I hope it is because I feel like it wasn't ugly after they lost to the Mavericks based on their performance tonight. So there you go, Jamsters. The subreddit stakeout.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
And now time to give out some hardware.
Jam Star of the Game.
Jam Star of the Game. Well, I'll give a shout out to Corey Flynn in the super chat. Dropped $1.99 and asked the question, who is our Run DMC glasses coach? Jamal Crawford. I don't rightly know. Maybe somebody can answer that in the chat.
Do you know what that means?
Yes, it's the coach that we have on the Phoenix Suns who wears the glasses like Run does. From Run DMC.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not Jamal Crawford, though. It's not Jamal Crawford. Jamstar, Josh Okogie, and we just call it a day?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Fair enough. Low Suns, me, because I stopped watching and was less depressed. Ha ha ha. Yeah, amen to that. I even tweeted out, I'm like, if I didn't have to do this podcast, I would have been in bed 2 hours ago, man. That was embarrassing. Next up for the Phoenix Suns, a back-to-back, not necessarily back-to-back, but an away 2-game set in New Orleans against as of the aforementioned top of the Western Conference, New Orleans Pelicans. Matthew, is anything going to get better this week?
Jay Crowder's coming back. He's playing against the Pelicans. Fuck Jay Crowder shirts come back, and he's going to pump this team up, and we're going to lose.
The fans are going to be wearing them.
Yeah, dude. It's. I was watching some of the Pelicans game, and, Ayton's the number 1 pick. Zion's the number 1 pick. You can still hear like some of the announcers there, like talking about Zion needs to do this, he needs to do this. You know how EJ kind of critiques what Ayton does during the game? Mm-hmm. They're doing the same thing with Zion. So Zion, puts up big numbers, but they still expect a lot more from this dude. So Ayton, you're gonna have your handful with him. You're gonna have your handful with whatever that other dude's name, the big the other
Jonas
big guy,
Valanciunas,
Big V, and you're gonna have Alvarado around your knees trying to grab the ball around. So you pull that ball down one time, dude, you're benched just once because Alvarado's gonna be there, he's gonna take it away from you. You know what I mean? So he's gonna have a lot to deal with this game. I don't know how you come back from tonight and you go play a Pelicans team, which I fear even more because I didn't really watch the Celtics yet. I'm just scared to play that team, but we'll see. Ingram's out maybe, so who knows?
The difference is the Celtics, I knew coming in, I'm like, I chalked this one up to a loss. I think that team is just insane right now. The challenge with the Pelicans is, one, this is a team that you have to play twice in a row. And two, this is a team that's motivated to play you, right? Like Boston, their talent was going to get them through this game. They weren't motivated to play us like Dallas was. Dallas looks at Phoenix as a rival. New Orleans looks at Phoenix as the team that bounced them out of the playoffs last year. This is an opportunity for them to prove to themselves, like, hey, we're better than that team. We played them very well in a 6-game series. We ultimately lost it, but you know what? We feel like we're better now. Zion is a beast, and he is an Ayton kryptonite kind of guy, right? Both of them are. Big V and Zion, because they play physical. And DA, for the majority of his career, outside of like the last, a week and a half stretch in November of 2022, is a finesse and not physical player. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup occurs. I'm preparing myself for a dark weekend, a couple losses. I can definitely see it happening. We play the Rockets after that, and then we play the Clippers.
But if we lose to the Pelicans, let's say we lose one game by 20, one game by the next game by like 5, it's a closer game. What happens? Like, is there something? I know we can't trade anybody, but
almost.
Is somebody just pissed off? Is there going to be something like a headline where Booker says something or Monty's under the fire? Who knows? What do you think is going to happen?
Not with this team. This team is too mature, cool, calm, collected. I think that they do a good job of keeping things in-house. So we're not going to get the big headlines. We're not going to get the big oh shit moment. The oh shit moment's going to come if and when James Jones makes a transaction. Because the one thing that we've been blessed with at the front end of this season is the Suns have played well enough to where we haven't really had to go, well, James, when are you trading Jay? We need an asset. We're missing something. The Suns have survived injuries thus far this season, and they're still second in the Western Conference. Now, that being said, they're second in the Western Conference with a little bit of variance, but not much wiggle room. Because now they are 2 games from being the 7th team in the Western Conference, which is the Dallas Mavericks. They are a half game behind New Orleans and the Utah Jazz, who are the 6th seed, tied with the Sacramento Kings. Well, the Kings are the 5th seed by percentage points. But both of those teams are 2.5 games behind New Orleans. So the Suns are only 2 games better than them. We can go on a pretty quick slide here, and all of a sudden we're the 7th seed. That can happen real quick. And then everyone starts going, okay, James, when are you trading Jay? We need an asset. We need something. We need to get something in here to stop the bleeding, because that's what I'm afraid of right now. I'm afraid of some bleeding. That loss to Houston sucked because I knew that, we played the Spurs the next day, but you take a look at the Suns' upcoming schedule and you start to go, whoa, this could get out of hand really quick. Again, they played Dallas, a team that's playing better. They lost to them. They played tonight against Boston. They get destroyed by them. They go back-to-back against the New Orleans Pelicans. Then they're at Houston. Then they're at the Clippers. Then they come home. They play the Pelicans again. Then they got the resurgent Lakers. You got a pesky Wizards team. Then you got Memphis on 2 days before Christmas. Then you got the Nuggets on Christmas. Then you got Memphis again. Then you got the Wizards again. The Raptors, who are tough. The Knicks. Cleveland. Miami. There's not a lot of easy outs in the NBA. You got to figure something out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, when you watch a team like tonight where they still look like they have a lot of issues, and we can chalk it down to, hey, Chris Paul came back. They're trying to get things back. Cameron Payne coming off the bench again. That might be something where he's just not used to, because once you're a starter for, 10 games, 11, 12 games, then you're kind of cruising. You kind of feel good by now, right? You kind of feel good as a starter. Now you're back on the bench. So a lot of things were adjusted. So I think we just got to hold tight. Even though I tried to trade about 3 different players tonight, just hold tight. And I'm thinking we're going to lose again by 20. It might not be the case. if the game is slowed down, maybe against the Pelicans, if DA can be like he was a week ago, that would be a more competitive game Friday night. It would be a game where we wouldn't want to turn off at halftime. But that's up to DA. That's up to Booker to really get his shot to go down in the first quarter, because he's Mr. First Quarter. He's always a guy to get 10 points the first quarter, set the tone. When you're missing that, it sucks. We need Mikal to actually be that scorer sometimes to force the issue at the rim. If we get that, we'll be back to normal again. But until then, it's going to be a little rough.
It's going to be interesting to see how they navigate this upcoming schedule. A couple names that I wanted to bring up when we talk about the trade market. One, I saw some of the Jamsters were talking about it a little bit earlier in the chat, was Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton playing for the Utah Jazz. Yeah. Thoughts on Colin Sexton? I like how you said, yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, he's the worst part of Sexland, dude. When you have Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. No. If you want to be more, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something with him, but I can't stand watching the guy.
I think he's.
I can't. He plays. I mean, if we watched Christian Wood play the other night, that's the guy who plays by himself. I feel like Sexton's the same thing, but then also someone might show me like, oh, he has 6 assists per game. What I see on the floor is someone that plays his own game. The Suns absolutely do not need that right now. So I don't know where that comes from. Mario Lopez. Was that Mario Lopez? Was that you? You little stink.
It might have been Mario. But I've also seen it on Twitter. You know, some people are talking about, because Utah's a team that's starting to really regress, and it's assumed that they're going to trade off some of their assets. That might be one of the assets where they're going to try to get a draft pick too. Yeah, that ain't happening. I wish. What about Kyle Kuzma? That's the other name.
Yes, absolutely. It's not going to happen.
It would be great if it
would be, yeah. And then you keep hearing stuff. You keep hearing
how do you make that happen?
Sham said it again that we're looking into him, but this stuff always is sitting out there for some reason, and nothing ever happens. So,
yeah, Mario Lopez is like, yes, we need another scorer. I get it, but like, Colin Sexton's just like having campaign again. Like, he can score, but like, he's a black hole on offense. Like, he's not initiating the offense in any way, shape, or form. So if you want to get another scorer, why don't you get somebody who's got, more than one skill set? I don't know. All right. We haven't done this one in a while, but on a very traumatic day like this,
let's do it.
Let's do some childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma.
What do you want to talk about?
Did no one
had any suggestions. Somebody said Cam Reddish. No one Cam.
No, I saw Zona talking about that too.
Yeah, he's been a project in like everywhere he goes. He just bringing another project. Childhood trauma. What do you want to talk about?
Let's you know what? One came to mind. I don't know how, but water parks. I'm sure you have one with water parks, right? Maybe.
Not growing up.
No.
So I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and San Dimas was not too far from us. San Dimas is where Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure takes place. In quotations, they filmed a lot of it out here. But we were always too poor. No one ever took us to water. My parents never took us to water parks. Now, granted, growing up in Southern California, you don't go to a water park, you go to the beach. Right? So maybe I could do some beach trauma, but tell me a little bit about your water park trauma.
Yeah. So we were poor too. It's just we still did things. I don't know. But
dropped off places.
It was a big water slides. I remember going the first time to Big Surf. If anybody remembers Big Surf, it's been closed down, I feel like, for 5 years now. I don't think there's one around. Going up the biggest water slide, and I remember walking all the way to the top because it's a spinning little stair, not stairs, just like the way to get up there, the pathway, and it goes around and around and around, about 2 stories high, it seems like. So I get all the way up there, and I chicken out. I have my raft with me.
How old were you?
I can barely remember, so probably like 26. No, I was probably like 6 or 7 or something like that. I was super young, dude.
Yeah,
but
6 or 7-year-old Matthew finally get to the top, and did you like cry, or were you just like, no,
so good? I didn't cry. I went back, and the worst part was walking back down, and you faced everybody on the way down, and they knew you were leaving, and everyone was giving me shit. Everyone was calling me a baby. They were saying, wow, like, where are you going, dude? You too scared? What? Like, even adult males with their hot girlfriends, like, just giving me shit. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not doing this, dude. I got up there, chickened out, And yeah, I think that's about it. And one time my boob fell out, but that's about it.
Well, I mean, you gotta contain those babies. That sucks. Corey Flynn in the chat says, "Yo, Bill and Ted filmed at Sunsplash in Mesa, and it was also filmed at Coronado High School. But the fictional those fictional characters were in San Dimas. That's where they were supposed to be. They filmed the majority of it in Arizona. Okay. But I guess I can throw a beach story out there again. Growing up, always going out to the beach. I remember one time my dad, he had these green flippers he used to always wear. I was sitting on the beach one time. I was probably about 6 years old. My dad loved the ocean, so he used to take us all the time. And one time he's like, "Hey, I'm just going to go for a swim in the ocean." And he went swimming, and he kept swimming, to the point where I couldn't see him anymore. It's myself and my brother Paul, who's 3 years younger than me, so he's 3. And I just sat there and cried. I thought my dad left me in the ocean. It's like you ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they go to
Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore.
Yeah,
and Charlie's like, "So what's on the other side of that?" They're like, "Well, it's Europe, Charlie." It's like, so I don't think about swimming to Europe. In my head, my dad was swimming to Japan or something. And I just remember crying. And he came back and he was frustrated because I had been crying. And then another time when I was at the beach, we're in Malibu, and Malibu's got these huge rocks, and you can kind of climb through these cliff rocks, if you will. And I came out on the other side, and they were doing a Playboy photo shoot or something there. And they had naked ladies and this.
Oh,
this,
yeah.
this, yeah. I was like, that was pretty cool. That was the first naked chick I ever saw.
I feel like, did you tell me that before? Or did I see that in a movie or something?
I think I told you. I think I was telling that story to somebody recently. And my dad was hitting on the models as they were climbing. There's a bunch of stairs you got to go up there. So, yeah, it was pretty fun.
Back in the day, right?
Back in the day.
Everyone was naked, in and out, slipping through things. And...
Yeah, your boob fell out, their boob was out. I mean, it's circular. So there you go. Childhood trauma. Next podcast will be coming to you live after the Suns play the Pelicans on Friday. Again, pretty fun being a part of the Basketball Podcast Network. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Head over to wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe there. If you're watching this on YouTube at any time, please hit that thumbs up button while you're there. We didn't suck tonight. Hopefully, it's just the Suns. But until Friday, everyone, have a good week. Have a good rest of your week. Keep your boobs in check, okay?
Yeah, go home and love your DraftKings.